There we go. Okay, so let me share my screen. Um, Here we go. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is the main landing page on our website at the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation. I am the Preservation Programs Director for the Trust. One of those programs being the Youth Heritage Project, which we usually almost always call YHP because it's a mouthful. This will be, I think, the 13th or 14th year that we are holding YHP. We usually go to a different location in the state every summer in mid-July and do a multi-day field school. So it's for high school age students. That includes eighth graders who have just finished middle school and are heading into ninth grade, all the way through seniors in high school who have just graduated and are heading to whatever their next chapter may be. So it's usually students between the ages of around 14 to 18, and we have anywhere from 30 to 45 students, depending on where we're going and what we're doing. This summer, we're going to be in Ellensburg, and so in addition to going to a different place in the state, we also look at a slightly different topic or organizing thread that we plan everything around. So I'll get into the specifics for this year in a little bit, but I'll talk first about the program a bit more generally. So just to show you, there's photos from past years, and there's some of the general top line information available here on our website, preservewa.org. But I think it's really important to know that this program is completely free for attendees, and we really want to try and remove any of the barriers to attend, right? So when we've got your students, we include meals, you've got a place to stay. We try to be supportive with helping students to arrive and depart from YHP. So help with traveling or to supplement travel costs for families. So that includes a couple of options. You can bring yourself if you are able to drive. Your parents can drop you either in Seattle or in Ellensburg. If you're joining us in Seattle, we have rental vans, and Washington Trust staff and teacher mentors will drive vans of students out to Ellensburg. We're going to be staying just on the edge of town at the Lazy F Ranch. They run all kinds of programs, including youth programs on their own, youth summer camps. So they're really well equipped for the type of program that we're going to have. And then we'll all be together, right? So all of the teacher mentors, myself and our executive director Chris Moore, and all of the students will be together for a few days, going from place to place, going to do exploration of Ellensburg. We're going to have the opportunity to do a really deep dive into the history and culture of the place and visit a number of our community partners, from local historical societies to museums to community-based organizations to tribal representatives. We're going to go to a local wind farm. We're going to do a number of things. So we're outside a lot of the day. It's, a lot of get up and go, moving from place to place. And we also build in meal breaks, downtime, and some opportunities to just have fun and be kids. So every year looks a little bit different, but that's often the mix. We want to provide opportunity for students to learn about the world of historic preservation and cultural resources kind of broadly so that you can learn more about a place and start to make connections about a place that you might call home or one that you might live in one day. So you can start to see that there's always layers to history, and so that you can get exposure to potential career paths, job opportunities, potential places where maybe you would want to be an intern, especially in your local community at an equivalent organization type to a local historical society or a museum or an environmental research site. It really depends every year where we go, but we want students to see that, there are a lot of ways to get experience in cultural resources and maybe even to make your career from it one day. So we'll go all about. We're still developing the details of the curriculum, but we have a number of community partners that we're working with to hash out the specific details of the schedule of each place that we're going to go to. So in the meantime, I'll pause for a quick second in case anybody has questions about what I've just gone over before we look at the online application. If you have a question, just come off mute. When I'm sharing screen, I can't see any questions that come into the chat.
Do you know if you guys, one of your collaborators, will be the Yakama Nation Fish Hatchery nearby in Ellisburg?
I don't know that we're working with the fish hatchery specifically. We are doing outreach to the Yakama Nation, but more on their cultural resources and historic preservation office side. It's
Okay,
it's going to be more of a history focus than an environmental focus. So there's always some overlap, but we are a historic preservation organization, and so usually that's our central focus.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Although, listen, Robert, if you got a contact, shoot them my way. We always looking for ways to fill out the schedule.
I
But we
do
were,
actually.
yeah, I would appreciate that. It never hurts. Um, but yeah, so, especially with tribal governments, right? Like they're a whole government, and there are
Right.
usually a few people who are handling archaeology, a few people who are handling permitting, and, so there are a lot of different ways to connect with the tribe. And we've seen that in past years, and sometimes it's not always the person we expect. But I'll say this year for Ellensburg, we're asking the students to look at the relationship with tribal lands and traditional cultural properties and alternative energy installations, specifically looking at things like solar and wind farms, so large scale alternative energy installations, some of which have already been sited on either tribal land or places that are significant to the tribe. But they also, are the stewards and inhabitants of that place since time immemorial. And so all of that region has some connection to the tribe, right? So we're looking sort of at how do you navigate tribal significance with installations that might have some element of greater good, but there can be complications to it, right? A wind farm is pretty disruptive to have in a place where maybe you would want to go to do cultivation or to have traditional ceremonies. So we're going to be sort of exploring that in a general sense. And then the students will partner with a specific place or an organization and break out into smaller groups. They will do group projects and do public presentations on the final day. So we always end with town hall presentations that family members and community members have the opportunity to attend. So we always have a public venue for people, and usually, families come if they can, and people who we've visited and met with and worked with through the week will usually often attend. And it's always really inspiring to see what the students have learned and synthesized and come up with to present in less than 4 days. So I love the town hall. So I will open up the student application. So these black boxes on our website are clickable and will take you to the student application. Um, you know, this is not your college application. Um, we are not looking for you to do your best ever work on the essay questions, but we're looking for students who are willing to take the time and put in a little thought, put in a little effort. This is an alternative way of learning a place by going in person, by moving around, by doing a lot of site visits. But it is, an educational program, and we want students who can demonstrate that they have some appetite for this subject area, for these topics, and are going to show up, be present, and be willing to learn, right? You don't need to come in already being an expert in history or historic preservation, but we hope that you bring, some willingness and some curiosity. So the applications are currently open. I encourage all of you to apply, invite your friends. I know a lot of students will sort of corral a friend into going, and sometimes it's fun to bring company. We have about 30 spots available still for this year, and applications will close on May 6th. If heaven forbid something happens, you intend to apply, and you're not going to be able to make it on that deadline, life happens, emergencies happen, just shoot me an email. My email is available here. This is my phone number. I'll also put my email in the chat when I'm not screen sharing. And we'll try to work with you. We really want to make this an opportunity that as many students can attend as possible. It's a lot of fun, and we want people to come and enjoy it and participate and learn something. So the online application is pretty straightforward. You can just type away. There are some things, we need demographic information. We are able to offer this program free of cost because of grants that we get from a number of organizations, including multiple tribes. And we're always applying for grant programs and for grant funds every year so that we can keep the program happening and keep it free of cost. And so some of this demographic information is useful for us in our grant reporting and grant solicitation. And some of it we need to know because everyone gets a YHP t-shirt. We are in charge of many of your meals, so we need to know what's safe for you to eat in advance so that we can work with our on-site catering team and make sure that everyone has safe, healthy food for them. And then it helps me as someone who sends out a lot of emails at what feels like sometimes just into the void. It's really helpful to hear how you found out about the program, so that we can help be really intentional in our outreach from year to year to learn what works and what doesn't. Contact information, you know, you can put your email, you can put contact information for multiple parents and the student, and we'll do our best to reach out to everybody so that everyone's in the loop. Here's some of that demographic information. And then if I can remove the cobwebs and think back to when I was in high school, I remember feeling really intimidated by essay questions. And that's why I say, do your best. Don't feel like you need to spend weeks editing your answer. We do want to hear from you, I mean, if your answer comes from ChatGPT and it's not personal, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get into YHP, but I don't want you to feel like you have to have a perfect answer or a polished answer. We want to know what draws you to this program. We want to see where you're coming from with it. And so I've tried to structure the essay questions to be a little open-ended. So, this year our questions are, what is a place in your community that you've learned the history of? Were there parts of the place's history that surprised you? Did you think already that you know the full story, or do you suspect that there might be more there for you to discover? Right? And that's showing us, do you think about the places where you are? Are you willing to be curious about them, to see them from different lenses and perspectives from different community representatives? And it's really exciting for me as the program director from year to year to see students who have attended more than once and kind of see that evolution in their essay questions where, maybe that wasn't something they were super conscious of year one, and then I can see in their essay question for year two how much more attention they're paying to the places and the histories all around them. There's only two essay questions. The second question is, to tell us about a time that you had to work on a team. You're going to come to YHP, and even if you manage to get a friend or two to apply and come with you, you're probably not going to know the majority of the other students, right? And I think the grown-ups on the call know that there are going to be a lot of situations like that in your adult life where you start a new job or you join a team or whatever the case may be. And this is, for a lot of the students, one of the first times that they're dropped in, getting to know a new group of people and having to learn how to work with them within just the first couple of days. So, tell us about a time that you've had to work on a team. What did you get from that? And what are your ideas or your own ethos around what's an effective way for you individually to work together with others on a group project? What's your best way to navigate that, your preferred method of handling it? So, I think they're pretty straightforward. We just want to hear from you and start to get to know you. So, here are some of the details at the bottom of the application about traveling to and from Ellensburg. Again, you have the option to go to Lazy F Camp, where we will be staying, or you can come to the Washington Trust headquarters, which is here in Seattle in the First Hill neighborhood. And, we want to know where you're heading so that we can do a head count, and we always want to know where all the students are. And if your car breaks down on the road, we want to know if you're driving to Seattle or driving to Ellensburg so that we can figure out the timing. Because once we get to Ellensburg, we hit the ground and we go right from there. So once we arrive, we'll start with orientation to the place, introductions to each other, and so any delays and things like that, we like to account for. So we expect that when students commit to YHP, that they are willing and able to attend the entirety of the program. You don't have the option if you're a local to the Ellensburg area to go home and sleep at your own house every night. The idea is that this is a field school, and when you come to join us, you're with us the whole time from drop off to pick up, that you're present and accounted for and participating. Last year there was a student who got sick and needed to stay back at the accommodations, and I hung around in case she needed anything. I mean, stuff happens, things come up, but for the most part, when we are guests at someone's site or organization, we want headphones out, heads up, the best you can, paying attention, being engaged. It's a lot of information to absorb in a little bit of time. Everyone needs breaks, and we try to build those into the schedule within reason. So, we are expecting your commitment to be responsive and engaged, to treat everyone in the program with respect. Just, I think generic things. Let us know if you're a minor that you have your parents' permission to attend, and then you submit it online. So, hopefully, all of that should be pretty straightforward, but I'll pause here and see if there are any questions specific to the application that we can go over before I stop sharing this part of the screen. Okay, hearing none, I think it might make sense now for me to stop sharing and give us an opportunity for any other questions. Again, I'm happy to pause the recording if you think your question might be kind of specific. And now that I'm not sharing, I will put my email in the chat. I will mention that since I manage many programs for the Washington Trust, my own inbox is often overflowing. So we also have an email inbox that's program specific, which I put second, yhp at preservewa.org. And I check in on that every day. So if you have a YHP specific question, feel free to send it there instead of to my Moira email. I'll probably see it faster that way. Amelia, hand up. Please feel free to come off of mute and ask your question.
Thank you. What is the final project and what does that entail exactly? Is it a poster or a oral? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still figuring some of that out, and it's a little bit different each year. So I'll talk through what we did last year as I think a good example. Last year, we had the students looking at the relationship between humans and the landscape in the areas of North Bend and Snoqualmie. And that is an area where there's a long and well documented history of um, engagement with the landscape from tribal prairie cultivation and maintenance to the railroad to hydroelectric power and sort of different types of human intervention into the landscape. And we asked the students to do interpretive projects to tell that story of that relationship at a specific site. So we had a group of students that went to the historic Snoqualmie Depot and partnered with some staff from the Northwest Railway Museum, and they wanted to talk about that relationship of the railroad coming to town. And when they were on site and working with the staff, a number of the students had their curiosity really piqued by learning more about Chinese laborers who were brought to the area to work on the railroad. And so they did like a multi-pronged approach, including one student who has a strong interest in illustration drew like a stop motion animation showing the landscape over time as the railroad came and was built and moved through, and that was part of it. And then other students had, proposed text and drawings and plans for where they would want to install a place to show the video, where they would want to add text in specific areas into some of the existing exhibition spaces. We had a student group who worked with the Snoqualmie Valley Historical Society Museum, which is a local museum, but that covers a lot of the valley and is a repository for a lot of things. And the students talked a lot about how the museum does a great job of telling lots of different stories about the relationship to the landscape, but doesn't always get a lot of youth visitation. And so they were really focused on how to encourage and engage that storytelling for an audience of their peers. And they did that in a couple of different ways. So even within that one group, they had ideas about developing an internship program. One of the students, this was a shock, stayed up late and sort of built out a beta version of an app kind of approximating Snapchat, where you could take a picture of your face, and he had linked it to a lot of the scanned copies of historic uh, yearbooks from high schools in the valley. And the idea being, I mean, again, he built this in one night, so no one expects it to be perfect, but the idea being that it could work like a filter and find the high school yearbook photo that most looked like you, which again, it was a cool and engaging idea, and it didn't need to be fully fleshed out. It's a 4-day program. But students have definitely done things that are more like a poster board, but generally, the final project is presented at town hall, and the expectation is that everyone, even if they're nervous, even if it's not for very long, everyone stands up on stage and has some speaking part. And that might be talking about what you did during the week to get to your final project, right? Like what was the groundwork that we laid for you to understand the place or the topic? It might be introducing your group's project. It might be talking about a specific part of it. We had students who wanted to create like a a new version of the Oregon Trail, but it was telling the history of the Sunset Highway through downtown North Bend. And so you would be like in a vehicle, and the vehicle changed over time, traveling through space. And so some of it is also just we like to leave it a little open-ended for the students to come with their own ideas and interests and creativity, right? So people who were, I think, using PowerPoint to sort of lay out scenes and vignettes that you would see as you moved through a video game, had a different interest than students who were, animating a stop motion video installation versus students who came up with planting programs. There was one student who wanted to tell a story of a place through the evolution of the native plantings and the wildlife because there were some really direct relationships between those plantings and specific groups who inhabited the place. And, she drew out on a big poster board different planting programs. As you would move through space, you would experience this plant, and then you would continue moving down a path and you would see this plant. So it can be a little open ended. I don't know if that's not a good answer to your question. Maybe you were looking for more specifics, but I don't know, Amelia, let me know if that kind of gives you a better idea of what you would expect.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, I, I really want to emphasize those, I think, could sound really intimidating and polished, but again, it's 4 days. We're looking for engagement and ideas and interests. We want to see that you got something from the program, you learned something, or started to think about a subject area or a geographic area in a new way, right? We hope that you take something away from YHP that you can carry with you into the world, even if it's just a better understanding that each place you go to has long and deep overlapping and competing histories, right? If nothing else, that's a good thing to understand better as you're moving through the world. Are there any other questions about the final project or about YHP?
I have a couple, if I may.
Sure.
First, on safety, is there a safety plan with the with us being in a drought and potential for wildfire? Is there an evacuation plan
We don't
from Lake
have,
F?
yeah, we don't have a specific evacuation plan. That's a good question. We would be following guidance from the municipality and also from the site. So Lazy F, again, is going to have a lot of groups there at the same time. So if
Okay,
there's a need to evacuate, they will, I get the sense from them, they will be quick to let us know. We will do everything we can to make sure that students are safely evacuated. We have van capacity to take everyone to another site to figure out um, how to send kids home if need be.
okay, thank you for that. And the next question is, so they'll be intermingling with. Do we know if it's elementary or middle school camp that's going on at Lazy F while this program's on?
We're not going to be intermingling, we'll just be in different residence halls at the same site.
Okay,
So we'll have our own meal times and our own wings, and it'll be just YHP students and teacher
okay.
mentors.
And then, what time are they done for the evening or
Uh,
afternoon?
it's a little bit different every night, but lights out is usually around 11 at the latest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have time every night after events conclude. Students have time to shower and eat a meal, and then if there's no fire ban, we usually like to have a campfire, make s'mores, and have time for like some relaxing end of night activities for students who want to participate. So we have built in a little downtime fun time at the end of every night. And then there will usually be one night where we do something special. It's looking like this year we may have a former state ranger come and lead us through a stargazing activity, which would be a little bit of a later activity, but we try to make sure that there's a firm bedtime at the end of every night, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think I saw someone's hand go up and then go back down. Oh,
Moira, I
mm-hmm.
would like to ask, who are your teacher mentors?
Yeah, so our teacher mentors, most of whom usually come back every year. So we have even teacher mentors who have participated for the 13 or 14 years. And it's usually about half of the group are high school teachers, and the other half are professionals in historic preservation, archaeology, or cultural resources. We do background checks on all of the teacher mentors, and most of them, are public educators or have been previously. So some years I'm a teacher mentor. Our executive director, who is a former high school history teacher, sometimes is a teacher mentor, but usually we have some state staff members from the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation. Sometimes we get an archaeologist from Washington State Department of Transportation, things like that. And so we keep the students separated in their sleeping arrangement by their self-identified gender, and then the teacher mentors of that corresponding gender will be there in case of emergency, and we do bed checks every night to make sure that people are where they're supposed to be and not anywhere else. Did you have other specific questions about the teacher mentors, Mariola?
Now I think it's great. Uh, Please don't laugh if I ask one more question, because my son is especially interested in gold rush and
Mm,
anything about this kind of pioneer life and gold rush, uh, because our my great great grandfather came to this country uh, for that reason long
mm,
time ago. So my
yeah.
son is really interested in this. Anything about that? I don't know if in Washington State actually anything like that happens, especially in Ellensburg, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely been a larger focus in past years. There was a year where we focused on a historic core of downtown Seattle, which includes the National Park Service site for the Klondike Gold Rush Museum. That's not going to be a central focus this year, but I think that if you can develop like a real deep interest or a passion for a specific area, you can probably get bitten by the bug in other areas that you might find interesting. So he might still enjoy it, even if that's not what we're spending most of our time talking about.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of sweet as a grown-up history nerd kid. Um, it's really nice seeing the students meet other peers in their age group who are also interested in these types of subjects more generally. It's not every high school kid who wants to go on a 4-day place-based field school and learn about history on their summer break, right? So they're usually finding that they're in good company with each other. Are there any other questions? I think I saw someone. Robert, yeah.
Yes. Are you guys hiring? Are there openings for teacher mentors this year?
Yeah, there are. It's not really hiring like a position. There's a small stipend, but it's mostly volunteers. And applications are on the website, in the same place. I can share my screen and show. It's quite similar to the student application. So on the website, it's this box for teacher mentors. Um, and applications for teacher mentors also closes on the 6th. And now that we've seen the student application, this should look pretty straightforward. The essay questions are a little bit different, but should should make sense, I think. Should
Okay.
Now that you know more about the program, the question that we ask should make plenty of sense about why these are the questions we've chosen. But yeah, it's all meant to be pretty straightforward. I will say that similar to the students, we have the expectation that when you come as a teacher mentor, you're fully present. And so I think for some people that's been hard because they think, oh, maybe I could work for an hour in the morning, or I could check email at night for the office, or whatever the case may be. And I will say, just for full transparency, it doesn't work well to try to juggle both your full-time job and being a teacher mentor, even though it's a volunteer position, will be your full-time job for the whole time that YHP is happening. Because you never know when a student needs you in the middle of the night or whatever the case may be. So there are some similar statements of commitment for the teacher mentors as there are for students. The idea is that basically, unless you're trying to like find one group or another. Nobody's really on their phone. Everybody's there, and there's plenty to keep the teacher mentors busy while we have you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's not for everyone, but I think it's a lot of fun. We try hard to make it that way.
I believe it would be just the reason I asked is I teach seventh grade Washington State history,
Oh, cool.
and we changed our curriculum from just standard state standards. We still use state standards, but we go by land based and project based learning now.
Oh, that's really cool.
And we've been taking kids out for camp, like to Camp Gormley and Mount Rainier Institute
Yeah.
middle
Yeah,
school. So I was trying to get my son because he goes to a different school, and his school doesn't offer anything like my school does.
got it. Yeah, I
And I
mean
see how much the kids benefit from a program like that.
we've definitely had teacher, mentor, student group participants, right? Like we've definitely had teacher mentors whose children have attended, even multiple children. I think we're on a couple of families that are on their third child of the teacher mentor, bringing their third child to YHP over time as they age into high school. So if that were to work out, you certainly wouldn't be the only ones.
Good to know.
Yeah. So I don't want to rush everyone. If you have other questions, I'm here for a little bit longer. But again, we have a lot of information on the website if you poke around a little bit. And I'm available by email, again, with the recommendation that you try the YHP email first. Because I have opened 6 grant programs this fall, and we're in the contracting phase for like 4 of them. So my Moira inbox is quite full these days, unfortunately. But I'll see your email about YHP if you send it to that inbox a bit faster. So, are there any questions before we wrap up the meeting? I want to make sure that everyone, listen. I don't take lightly the responsibility of getting to take care and educate people's kids for a few days. So I want people to feel like they have plenty of time to ask questions.
I'll jump in one more time.
Yeah.
We'll go through the application process, my son and I, but I can also email you contact because we took high schoolers up to that hatchery last summer.
Okay.
They let us. Mid Columbia Fisheries is the one that led it, and they led us on a salmon dissection, and then the Yakama Nation did a tour of the hatchery for us.
Oh, that's really cool.
I can give you the contact info for those people.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Which email
Um,
do you want that sent to the
Send that to
YHP?
YHP if you don't mind. Yeah. And again, we go to a different place every year, but after a certain number of years, we come back to a place. So even if that's not something that we're able to fit into this schedule, we start kind of from scratch each year with planning out YHP, right? And so I'm always grateful for extra contacts in a place because the next time we go back to Ellensburg, we'll be, thinking of it through a different lens, and that might be exactly the perfect fit for what I need. And I just can't see forward 5 years from now. So I'll be grateful to have it in that inbox in my helpful contacts subfolder.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate the offer. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for signing up and attending and asking questions. I really hope to see some of these names in the application stack. And if you have any questions or any issues, again, please feel free to reach out. But in the meantime, hope to see your applications come in and hope to see you at YHP.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye.